You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 28th of November. Petition for imprisoned soldiers to be handed in on Thursday. Spanish sent an Algerian criminal to live in the UK. Go ahead for Mosque in Nottingham in face of congestion fears. Aged just 11, a Romanian sex offender is punished. Guess how? British secondary school teacher is unmasked as convicted murderer. Minister dismisses halal homes fears in the Netherlands. Sweden, brother on trial for stabbing sister to death in honour killing. Swedish nationalists correct over anti-white racism. Protester killed in Egypt. Thought for the day. Are we suffering from Muslim extremism? And finally, a very old tortoise and an even balder guy. UK news. Due to a tragic series of events, Sergeant Danny Nightingale, a soldier and medic with 17 years service, was convicted earlier this month of illegally possessing a pistol that he didn't know he had. Now, Danny Nightingale is no gun nut. He's a soldier who's served his country faithfully for nearly 2 decades. It was only because of a string of tragedies that the pistol ended up in Danny's house at all. He was given it as a gift from some Iraqi troops he had been training and planned to donate it to his regiment as a war trophy. But before he could, he was suddenly called back to the UK to arrange the funeral of 2 of his closest friends. Shortly after, Danny suffered severe memory damage after collapsing and falling into a coma while taking part in a charity fundraising trek. Danny's sentence was described by his commanding officer as the total betrayal of a man who dedicated his life to the service of his country. Not only did he serve loyally in the army for 17 years, as a medic he invented a life-saving dressing that is so effective is now used by NHS paramedics. Now normally I do not push another organisation in this news, but 38 Degrees is running an online petition to free this soldier. In a letter from Danny's wife thanking 38 Degrees, she stresses that they need as many signatures as possible by tomorrow. They have 70,000 signatures but really need 100,000. She states, "If we're going to show the court that the public don't want Danny in jail, we need as many signatures as possible on that petition by Thursday. It really could be what decides whether or not Danny comes home with me and our children in just 2 days' time. Every single signature counts. Can you publicise this email to your friends and family now and help grow the petition? You can also share this link on Facebook or Twitter, where we know lots of people are seeing it." I'll read out the link to you now. It's http://u.38degrees.org.uk/p/Danny-Nightingale. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to help Danny. And if you're in London and can make it along to our show of support for Danny on Thursday, that would be fantastic. 38 Degree members will be handing me the petition to take into court outside the main entrance to the Royal Courts of Justice on Fleet Street at 11:15 AM. Signed, Sally Nightingale, Sergeant Danny Nightingale's wife. A World Date reporter comments, "They put one of our own soldiers in jail for having a weapon, and yet we cannot get rid of known terrorists and hate clerics out of our own country. Something is very wrong here." An Algerian-born career criminal suspected of a marriage of convenience to a British citizen has been deported from Spain to the UK, and there's nothing we can do about it. Police say Lazari Zamouche had been arrested 92 times in Spain over the past 25 years for crimes from theft to robbery and had used a number of fake identities. But because he had married in the UK before his latest crime spree in Spain, he was deported to London rather than to his native Algeria. Officials say he was put on a plane to London after his latest arrest in Mallorca because he was deemed a security risk in Spain. His whereabouts in the UK are unknown at present. A World-A-Date reporter states, "Typical, nothing as easy as waiting for a guy to get off a plane, and our authorities can't even do that." Plans for redevelopment for a mosque in Wallerton, Nottingham, have been given the green light, despite residents' concerns over traffic. The Karimia Institute took over a former children's care home in Radford Bridge Road and have developed it into a prayer centre and have put in plans for a mosque. Nottingham City Council looked at the development in June last year and decided to give it planning permission for a year's trial. One resident, who didn't wish to be named, said it has caused a lot of traffic build-up near the Crown Island, and there's a lot of on-street parking caused by the centre too. Some of the drivers turn in people's drives, slam doors late at night, and I feel quite let down that the council have given this permission. Councillor Eileen Morley, who represents Woollerton West, said back in June we welcomed this planning application as it was providing a welcome facility for local people. Sajid Ahmad from the Institute said, "We're using a car park nearby and are asking people who live nearby to consider if they really need to drive and others to car share." A nationalist spokesperson said, "I presume Ahmed means the poor local residents. But if traffic is bad now, what will it be if the planning application is fulfilled?" One of the youngest sex offenders to be arrested for assaulting an adult has been sent on a sex education course. The 11-year-old Romanian boy forced his hands between the victim's thighs after confronting her while she was out shopping. The boy, who has now turned 12 and cannot be named because of his age, then rode off on his bicycle. A man convicted of murder in Bangladesh is teaching at a secondary school in East London after checks into his criminal history failed, has been revealed today. Mohammed Sadiq Rahman Chowdhury, an Islamic studies teacher in Bethnal Green, is being investigated by the Home Office after it was revealed he was found guilty of murder in absentia in his native Bangladesh. The teacher had undergone a Criminal Record Bureau check, CRB, but the conviction was not unearthed as the crime had happened overseas. Chowdhury has denied the murder, claiming he was framed and that it was actually committed by his brother, who is now dead. A World-Date writer states, "Very convenient. Why come to England anyway? Don't they need teachers in Bangladesh?" The recent bad weather disrupted the lives of residents in Conway and throughout the northern Welsh districts of Denbighshire yesterday. One older person was found dead at her flooded home in the town of St Aphas. Although residents say they did not have sufficient warning about the severity of the floods, weather reports say that the rain is easing and the people can return home again soon. The amount of damage caused by the heavy rainfall has not been calculated yet. Hundreds of flood warnings are still issued across most affected areas. Many thanks to the lifeboat crewmen and women who helped rescue the flood-stricken towns over the last week. European news. Dutch Home Affairs Minister Ronald Plasterk told a television programme on Sunday he has no problem with housing corporations renovating homes and taking the wishes of Muslim tenants into account. Plasterk was responding to a report in Parool newspaper on Saturday which said 188 apartments in Western Amsterdam had been adapted to meet the wishes of Muslims, with a special cupboard for storing shoes and an extra tap for ritual cleansing. They've taken some of the wishes of residents into account. There's nothing wrong with that, Plasterk told the show. But you should not build homes which non-Muslims would not want to live in. The paper described the flats as halal homes and placed great emphasis on the fact dividing doors could be used to close off the large kitchen and that a hall meant women could avoid meeting male visitors. A World-Date reporter states, "It has been well known in the UK for some years that Muslim residents of council homes have had extra financial help to adapt these homes to their religious beliefs, as well as extra medical help for their large numbers of disabled people." The murder trial of a 17-year-old boy suspected of fatally stabbing his 19-year-old sister more than 100 times with 2 knives and a pair of scissors started in southern Sweden on Monday. The ethnicity and religion of the people involved are not mentioned, but the sister, days before her death, made a recording which was played in court on Monday. "When I was 15 I was raped and married off," Maria could be heard saying. She had been speaking with the women's support group Tank Om, Think Again, which works to combat honour violence. They had given Maria shelter in the months before her death and recorded her claims of abuse. In more than a 30-minute long tape she spoke at length about the notion of family honour that permeated her upbringing. She then details being kidnapped and taken abroad as a 12-year-old. In the recording she says she fled back to Sweden when she was 15 but was forced to live with threats and harassment. The boy was arrested in April after calling the police to tell them he had found his older sister Maria dead in her apartment in Landskrona in southern Sweden and denies the crime. This presenter says that it just sounds too much like a Muslim muck-up. The words honour killing and underage sexual abuse fit in just too nicely, as does the terrible death of this young girl. The prosecution intimate that her mother had a hand in it as well. In fact, a truly family affair. A video showing a vile racist attack on a Swedish teenager by 3 Muslim Somalis has gone viral on the internet. Not only was Rudolf Molnane attacked, but he suffered terrible race hate crime. The Somalis dragged Rudolf, who was returning home from a party, from a bus stop late at night. Rudolf was dragged into a park where they pulled him to the floor, robbed him of his valuables and phone, then poured petrol on him and set his body alight. Whilst he was trying to let the flames out, they said, "No, leave it, let it burn," and placed his foot on Rudolf's neck to let the flames take hold of his face. He then suffered a further onslaught as the men all kicked him in the head and the face. He managed to get help from a local house and was taken to hospital. One of the 3 was caught. Ahmed Mohammed Ali, aged 19, was arrested by Swedish police, but he was arrested for just aggravated robbery, not race hate, which if it had been the other way round, Rudolf would have been charged with. This incident is similar to the Chris Donnell murder in Scotland by a group of Muslim men who attacked in numbers. World news. Pakistani Taliban swears revenge for the execution of a Muslim terrorist who killed many people in the Mumbai attack of 2008. A World Today writer comments, "They even lie about their own beliefs. One minute they are saying their highest aspiration is to die in holy jihad, and the next spitting nails when we assist them in that. If there was a single note of truth in anything these cretins say, they should be sending India a nice bottle of wine and a basket of fruits and assorted cheeses for helping one of their own to get Mohammed's afterlife bar and brothel they're always on about." An Egyptian protester has been killed in the Egyptian capital Cairo. The protester, who is against the power grab by current Egyptian leader Morsi, was killed after clashes with police in the well-known Tahrir Square. The number of protesters who want the military leader to stand down is almost in the same density as the crowd who wanted to get rid of the last Egyptian leader, Mubarak. Police have used tear gas to try and disperse the crowd. Thought for the day. Are we suffering from Muslim extremism? Things have reached the stage where we in the UK and Europe are at war. We are fighting for our very existence, and yet few people really acknowledge this in the real world. Our politicians, both nationalist and other parties, who dare to bring up the subject of Muslim sexual abuse towards non-Muslim underage girls are, like our own Nick Griffin, polarised and abandoned. Ilkley MP Chris Hopkins has been challenged by a senior local party figure for his comments in Parliament linking some British Muslims to sexual grooming. In an address to the House of Commons last week, Mr Hopkins said the British Pakistani Muslim community had to confront the fact that a small minority of its men were abusing white children. He also criticised the custom of seeking brides from Pakistan, suggesting this was motivated by a wish to have subservient women in the household. His mild remarks are being challenged by whom? None other than Zafar Ali, chairman of the Keighley Central Branch of the Keighley and Ilkley Conservative Association, and of course home to Muslim grooming on a large scale. Poor Mr Hopkins has had to almost retract his statement by stating, "I didn't attack Islam," says Ilkley MP. Of course you did, Mr Hopkins, and very brave it was too. Mr Ali has quoted what is becoming the usual mantra of these bastards, and I quote, "Islam is a global religion and draws its congregation from around the world. To taint Islam by association with paedophile gangs and child abusers is completely wrong, and Chris Hopkins should come forward within the Islamic community and apologise for this misguided generalisation." But Mr Hopkins has unfortunately taken away from most of this important debate on how we address child sexual exploitation by muddying the waters with a number of other issues that add little to the subject of the debate. Mosque leaders in Bradford have accused Mr Hopkins of overstepping his remit. Naughty Mr Hopkins, you should know by now you never call a spade in the UK, or a Muslim paedophile without incurring the wrath of these Islamic pricks. I have heard every variation of the Muslim argument, except the one I want to hear. that of packing up and leaving, or at least trying to stop these many men in their own Muslim communities actually perpetrating these crimes, or stooping so low as to cover them up, which they have been doing for over 30 years. In this conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy that runs alongside the sexual abuse of children in care by our own white paedophiles, who have been protected for years, the authorities in the UK are still publicly advertising the Sabils of the world, but aligning themselves with Islam in an even greater cover-up, in fact the cover-up of the century. Now the Daily Mail, in a double-page spread last week, highlighted the plight of the Dutch mother and the so-called feminist revolution that backfired. The revolution was to legalise brothels and the ensuing tragedy that it has entailed. In the Mail it quotes, "At a small house the blinds are closed so no one can peep in. 2 terriers and a bull mastiff bark ferociously if there's a footstep outside the bolted front door. For these middle-class girls, groomed into sex slavery by street gangs, have been rescued and are living in a safe house a few miles from Dievallen, the notorious red light area of Holland's capital, Amsterdam. They are the lucky ones. Thousands of other young Dutch girls, some only 11 or 12 years old, are still in the power of the prowling gangs after a controversial social experiment to legalise brothels." In a chilling parallel to the scandal sweeping Britain's towns and cities, where a multitude of girls have been lured into sex for sale rings by gangs, the Dutch pimps search out girls at school gates and in cafes, posing as boyfriends, promising romance, fast cars and restaurant meals. Now let us get this right. Once again the media are blaming the Dutch authorities for trying to get prostitution out of the hands of gangs, which of course it would do had it been done in any European country 20 or 30 years ago. Notice the reference to Dutch pimps and gangs who are using the well-tried and used Muslim method of sexual grooming on very young, vulnerable girls. In the article, in which a Dutch mother followed her daughter and found the horrible truth that she was being groomed by Asian gangs, or rather, as the media would not put it, a guy called Mohammed, not a Muslim of course. Anna, the mother, uses the same terminology that we have used in the party, a tall, dark and handsome and not a fairy tale. In fact, I'm sure she has read the YBNP leaflet. Of course the poor soul hasn't, but our words are prophetically tragic and true. Our problems in the UK are obviously endemic in any European country that boasts enrichment by large amounts of Muslim immigrants. And Mr Ali is right in one thing. You can be any ethnicity from almost white Arab to coal black Somali and still be a rotten Muslim and capable of sexual grooming of another culture's children. In fact, Islam could not make it plainer that their own women are either too plain or too out of bounds to attract this sort of attention. But of course it is not any of those facts. It is the fact that these Muslims are in non-Muslim countries so far, and are treating these countries as victors would in a battle. They are raping the very young girls for a reason. One is to commit a form of genocide on those who they believe are kafirs or untouchables. Second is these children will not bear children hopefully in the future. Thirdly, they are telling everyone that their way of life and Islam is the way forward. And fourthly, challenging anyone in authority to actually do or say anything about it without apparently offending some Muslim somewhere sometime. Now how long this ridiculous state of affairs goes on I cannot say. Just how long will it take for the penny to drop in this country, let alone the Nordic countries where they seem to ignore it even more than we do? If you read the articles I do, coming in from Europe on Muslims causing troubles wherever they put down their baggage and breed, you'd be thoroughly angry, and you would be right. Stories coming in about race hate crimes being perpetrated against the white race but never prosecuted in those countries are increasing. You would have thought every attacker was a Stephen Lawrence and the attacked were nationalists, whereby they are usually innocent people being attacked by Muslims who have a religious hatred for non-Muslims. This is where it stems from. Religion, not race. This is where the media cannot fault us if we discard the race card in the ever-increasing crimes being done by an increasing number of so-called British-born Muslims who want to bring jihad to its lowest form to this and other European countries. In this country we have allowed over the past years Muslims to have the voting power to elect their own under the misguidance that they would elect MPs and councillors according to their political party, and they don't. They follow Islam, and Islam speaks for them, not for the local Christian or non-Muslim peoples. This is why we have a plethora of new mosques and so-called community centres which are just for Muslims, not for non-Muslims, in almost all our towns and cities. This is why we have huge masses of newly arrived Muslims being given free housing and free medical care in those areas over the heads of existing non-Muslim families. This is why we have marches and preachings against us whites and non-Muslims in our own towns. We and successive governments have allowed these people, in particular, to become so powerful that now the authorities do not have the means to stop them without appearing non-politically correct, or to use the well-worn Marxist term, racist. I said some time ago, beware the peacemakers, and I meant it. The Muslim who states he comes in peace and that Islam is a peaceful religion should have their knuckles rapped as a liar. Tell that to the poor little 13-year-old girl raped and bleeding in a shabby room waiting for her next customers who are Muslim. Tell that to the youth beaten, tortured and dead. Tell that to people who cannot walk down their own streets at night for fear of being attacked by peace-loving Muslims. And tell that to animals beaten and killed in the name of halal by peace-loving and hatred for non-Muslims. Tell that to our land, to our people, and if you believe it, you should have your knuckles rapped as well. These people do not come in peace, and they will not go in peace. Remember my words. And finally, Britain's oldest tortoise celebrates 130th birthday. Born when William Gladstone was in Downing Street and Queen Victoria was on the throne, a female tortoise called Thomas is celebrating her 130th birthday. She has survived 2 world wars, a blast from a German bomb during the Blitz and 32 prime ministers. The longevity of Herman's tortoise is all the more remarkable as it had to be pulled from the rubble of a house during the Blitz in the Second World War, but went on to see another 7 decades and counting. Owner June Nagalas, 54, who cares for Thomas at her home on the Channel Island of Guernsey, said, "Thomas is very much a part of the family. I have pictures with her when I was as young as 2. Because she's so old we thought we would have lost her by now, but she's tough. I sometimes wonder if she'll outlive me. She's always been a bit big for her age." Now I'm going to read a small comment which features in a Veet advertisement for the removal of body hair. I apologise if the words offend, but I can barely read it because I'm laughing so much. But we all need a good laugh. There are some lovely comments unread, including another customer which involves ice cream and frozen sprouts, but I would have to be arrested. Yet another tried on his coffee table first and stripped off all the varnish. Here is this poor guy, and I quote, "Being a loose cannon who does not play by the rules, the first thing I did was ignore the warning and smear this all over my knob and bollocks. The bollocks I knew and loved are gone now. In their place is a maroon-coloured bag of agony, which sends stabs of pain up my body every time it grazes against my thigh or an article of clothing. I am suffering so that you don't have to. Heed my lesson. Do not put on knob and bollocks. I'm giving this product a 5 because despite the fact I think my bollocks might fall off, they are now completely hairless." Do not forget to vote in Rotherham tomorrow. We nationalists should of course endorse all the inanities of the UKIP manifesto which would endear them to the public. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.